Hello, everyone. Welcome to New Gen Politics. Since today is Labor Day, I thought I'd discuss the current state of labor in this country. Here's an article by Fox News published today titled, "This Labor Day, There's a Crisis of Working and Non-Working Men. Here are 5 things we need to do." And I'll quickly read through the summary of this article. Unfortunately, the evidence is clear that working-aged men are not doing well at all. Across the board, they are suffering from generational decline in quality jobs and falling out of the labor force in staggering numbers. These problems have grim consequences, not just for men, but for women, children, and our nation as a whole. As the think tank American Compass has found, in 1985, the median American man could cover the basics of a middle-class lifestyle, food, housing, healthcare, transportation, and education for 4 people with 40 weeks of income. In 2022, it would have taken the same man 62 weeks of income to do the same, which means men have to work 1.6 times more in order to see the same results. Which means millions of men, predominantly blue-collar workers and less educated men, can no longer provide a middle-class lifestyle for their families. As big a problem are the millions of men who have defected from the labor force entirely and spend their days in idleness, or worse. Last year, there were 7 million men missing from the labor force and 10 million total without work. As the scholar Nicholas Eberstadt points out, this means the share of American men without work today is as great as it was during the depths of the Great Depression. Depression levels of non-work for American men are leading to social breakdown all around us. A record 49,000 people took their lives in this country last year, and 4/5 of the dead were men. Addictions to drugs, alcohol, pornography, gambling, and video games are also on the rise. The individual stories are devastating, as are their impacts on families and local communities. Altogether, they spell serious trouble for America. So what is the root cause of men's present woes? There is no single culprit behind the carnage, but our report identifies 5 factors that are particularly worthy of attention: deindustrialization, open borders, corrosive welfare programs, changes in education, and recent revolutions in American culture and technology. We must respond to these factors head on. And the article goes on to talk about how they think adding more funding for trade schools and giving more job opportunities by bringing jobs back from overseas will help, and it certainly will. But the main cause is demoralization. Of those 5 factors, revolution in American culture and technology, I think, is the biggest problem. And the article doesn't really go into a deep explanation about each of those, how they've come about, or what we can do to solve them. They kind of just mention that these are the 5 they've identified. So I think talking about each of them would be a good idea. First, deindustrialization. We have shipped tens of millions of jobs overseas over the last couple decades, and that has severely hurt our working class. It's severely hurt our economy, and it's affected the prices of goods. And coupled that with open borders, people who don't belong in this country taking low-income jobs from Americans and affecting the wage payout all the way up to the top, we're seeing devastating consequences for people trying to find a job. It's hard to even find a job now if you want to. And while you are unable to, or if you don't want one, we're having corrosive welfare programs. Enough money to not just survive, but actually do fairly well on. And a lot of times you're seeing that poverty trap come into play where people make more on welfare than they do getting an entry-level job. So what incentivization is there to work? When you have more money taken from taxes, and at the end of the day, you take home less than you would if you were just on welfare and didn't have to work. We're also seeing changes in education, especially among men who are falling behind women significantly, and that gap's widening. So men are doing worse and worse at getting higher level jobs. And lastly, what I think is the biggest issue is American culture and technology. The article mentions how much men are mistreated in this country and blamed for most, if not all, of our problems. And it certainly doesn't make a case for them to help anybody but themselves. And the changes in technology are making it so it's rather comfortable to stay at home most of the time, or maybe they can make money some other way through the hustle economy. But all these factors combine to be demoralizing. What is the point of working as a young man in America nowadays, really? Some people would say it's to provide for a family. Well, most men can't find a decent enough quality woman to get married to and have children with. Well, they'd say it's self-satisfaction. Well, corporate office work is barely self-satisfying, and achieving a high score in a video game is certainly more entertaining and probably brings you a higher level of gratitude. You're seeing the direct effect of your effort versus working a lot of America's back-end corporate jobs, you're not seeing a direct impact of the work you have on a day-to-day basis and how it actually affects people's lives or how it's meaningful to your community or the country as a whole. They're also wrapped up in all these addictions. We know pornography leads to less motivation. We know drug use leads to less motivation. So they're more willing to simply not do anything. And this whole pick yourself up by your bootstraps, work hard to work hard, be a man, it doesn't resonate with young people anymore. That's not a good enough reason to go to work. We're not a meritocracy anymore. That's certainly true. Hard work does not equal a good outcome, not in this country anymore. It's not guaranteed. And since that concept has gone out the window, so has people's motivation to work hard. It's as simple as that. But you combine it with all the other factors that allow you to not work and encourage you to seek fulfillment in other places, suddenly you have a recipe for men not wanting to participate whatsoever. And that's not even getting into the monetary aspect. The fact that half your money is taken by the government is pretty demoralizing. Even more when you're hit by inflation, which is constantly going up, as well as the cost of living. If you want to get young men to work, incentivize them to work. Don't disincentivize. Disincentivizations, like reducing welfare programs, I don't think will help. I think they might make the problem worse because the disincentivizations to participate in society are so strong that I think you'll just result in more men killing themselves. I don't think disincentivizing them to stay at home, disincentivizing their ability to maintain their current lifestyle, unless they work a job that barely gets them enough to survive, I don't think that will help force them into the workforce like some people suggest, because there's always another avenue, suicide. It's a real possibility, and that's what a lot of people choose to do. It's horrifying, and it's horrible that this country, based on our actions and the way we run it, has led to so many people having a mental health crisis that is on the rise. And it's one of the most serious problems we face. So what we need to do is we need to incentivize people going back to work. And that is a tall task, because even if you're doing a bad action and you stop that bad action, it does not mean that there's not residual effects. If we undid all the disincentives causing people not to work, the culture of still not wanting to work may persist. There's no guarantee that this just flips like a switch. That's not how people work. It's not how the economy works. You can't just flip a switch and fix everything by going in the opposite direction. There's long-lasting residual effects that will get worse and worse if we don't address this issue today. So I plan to continue doing more videos on men's mental health, women's mental health, and illustrating a plan and the objectives we need to meet in order to start reversing some of these specific issues and dozens of other issues our country faces. So if you're interested in hearing more about those, please make sure you like and subscribe so you can stay up to date. Hit the notifications bell. So thank you so much for watching this video. And now that you've heard what I think, please let me know what you think down in the comments below.